Kan diundi.
Saya akan memulai undiannya ya. Should I use English in this?
You may start in English.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Ibu Dina, Pak Arya Friansyah, Bu Valentina. Thank you for coming today. Today we're going to have English presentation for the selection of the finalists of the most outstanding student, Faculty of Law. We're going to start the agenda by picking a lucky draw in deciding on which one go first. So I have this fishbowl that have your name, the finalist name on it. This is 10 finalists, I believe. And then I'm going to pick one by one. And the first one being picked is going to have a presentation for the first. So I hope if you can help me in noting the order of the presentation. Okay, I'll start open one. Can you see? I picked one name. The first is Muhammad Fakih. So this is
okay.
Fakih, the first. And then the second is Deapina Christie. Please prepare for that. The third will be Saskia Galan. Saskia Galan, you can see. And then the fourth one will be Yonatan Wiryajaya. Please prepare. And then the fifth one, Hilwa Azahra. Please prepare.
Okay, Bang. Thank you.
The sixth one is Aditya Wahyu. The seventh will be Nurul Zamzani. And then the eighth one is Hana Arinawati.
Thank you, Bang.
The next will be Alexandra Aulianta.
Thank you.
The last one will be Nino Napan. Okay. I'm aware that tomorrow you will have an exam, so it might intertwine or in conflict with the schedule of our selection. So I think some of you need some adjustment to switch the
your voice is still audible, Bang.
Thank you. So I'm aware that you guys will have exam tomorrow, and maybe some of you need to switch your order. So the Mahasiswa team already create this guidelines. Can you see the guidelines on which one available based on the schedule you have already submitted to us? So in technical, I give you maybe 5 minutes to decide on which one that have conflict with the schedule, and then please report it to Mbak Ikut. So maybe you can discuss it in the Mapres group now, or maybe now in the Zoom. So I believe tomorrow for the 9th, Aditya is in conflict, so anyone want to switch to Aditya's place?
Bang Angga, if I may ask.
Right.
So my turn is tomorrow, the second one. My name is Nurul Zamzami. For tomorrow, my presentation will be around from 10:30 to 11:15. So can I please be confirmed on whether my presentation will overlap on that time, or if not, it will be fine. But if yes, I will need to switch with some of the other candidates, if that's okay.
So you have a test in what time?
It's tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:15, roughly.
10:30 to 11:15. And
Yeah.
you are Noro.
Yes, thank you.
And you are the 8-1. 8-1 will be.
I'm the 7th, bang.
Okay. Oh yeah, the 7. 7 will be on 10. So I'll make sure the presentation will be on time. But if you want to switch for safety measures, that will be okay. So I leave it back to you. If you want to switch and any candidates want to switch over you, that will be fine. So anyone want to switch maybe? Or Nurul, do you want to switch?
I think considering that usually speakers number 3 to 5, so in this case, speaker number 8 to 10 usually start after lunch. I can switch with one of them who are not in the same class as me. So, but of course, that is up to them whether or not they want to switch with me.
Yeah, then maybe it's Hannah, Alexandra, and Nino, isn't it?
Yes, they are.
Do you really? Do you want to switch with Nurul?
Bang, if I may. So basically, in Friday, most of us in the regular programs, we have the task with TJP subject with Bang Junet, Bang Acil, and so on and so forth. So basically, most of us cannot do the presentation at 10 a.m.
Okay, then Baiput, any way out in this? Or maybe we can switch about the one that have the presentation today.
Bang, I think I'm free tomorrow, full day.
Okay, so Hilwa will be tomorrow. Nurul, are you okay switching with Hilwa?
Oh, so I will be presenting today, Abang. Number 5. That's fine by me. Thank you, Hilwa.
Thank you, Nurul.
I really like this. What is it called? It's a situation of friendly competition. I'm proud to have you guys here. Okay, so maybe we can start right now for the presentation. First, I'm going to introduce you to the judges for today. Today we have the 3 judges. First is Bapak Ari Afriansyah. Pak Ari is here with us. Thank you, Pak Ari, for coming and judging for today. And then we have Ibu Dina. And then the third one, we have Ibu Fallon. The 3 judges will be doing question and answer in your presentation. So we'll be.
I think you missed one judges. Ibrahim Imaduddin.
Oh yeah, and the last one is part of your contingent, Ibrahim Imaduddin, the chief of the PM, if I'm not mistaken. Can you open the camera, Ibrahim? Okay. Right. So before we start, I'm going to give you the technical rules about today's presentation. Basically, every finalist will have 45 minutes, which is divided into 2 sessions. First session will be 15 minutes. You're going to present your paper in English. And after that, you're going to have 30 minutes to have a question and answer session with the judges. For the technical stuff, I'm going to give you verbal cues on the last 5 minutes of your session. So in the 10 minutes of your presentation, or in the 25th minutes of your question and answer session. And I will do that again within the last 1 minute. So you guys have a cue for pacing your answer to fit the time frame. Okay. So without further ado, can we start?
Yes, you may start now.
Right. Okay. Let me prepare the stopwatch first. So we will have
pardon, Bang.
Yes.
Can I share the screen
yes,
for
of
the
course.
presentation? Okay, sure. Thank you.
The reason why I will use verbal cues because I know you will use screen sharing a lot, so I didn't want to disturb you in presentation.
Okay. And if I may, I'm going to also set a timer on my phone so I can see how much time I got left.
Oh, right. That's good. I indulge every finalist to do the same as a Faki. But I
Thank
also
you.
have time to keep. So you guys have
Okay, Bang.
your time limit.
Okay. Okay, is the screen visible, the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, it's visible, but how about the judges? Is Faki screen is visible to the judges?
Okay, maybe it is visible, Bang.
All right, so I'm going to start the timer now, and you can begin your presentation now.
To the honorable judges, to the committees, my fellow FOE students, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fakir Wisaksana, and today I will present to you about my idea titled the 23% at 2025 Roadmap, Policy Advocacy to reach 23% of new and renewable energy in the primary energy mix by 2025. Why I choose this topic, there are three reasons. The first one is my high interest in the field of new and renewable energy. The second one is my belief that a better and more sustainable energy plan can help to secure a better energy security for Indonesia. And the third one is my close relation with people who are currently suffering illnesses from air pollution. This presentation will be divided into three segments. The first one is the status quo. The second part is the problem and potential. And the third part is the idea. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so here we can see that Indonesia's energy supply is growing annually by 4.40%, and most of it is covered by by coal, natural gas, and oil. And with the decreasing reserve yearly, we can see that Indonesia doesn't have that much of a reserve left. And to prepare for the depleting reserve, Indonesia needs to shift to alternative sources that are more sustainable. Here we can see that carbon emission from fossil fuels have many negative impacts. Carbon emission from energy sector contributes up to 90% of Indonesia's CO2 emission and is the most dangerous carcinogen substance and contribute to 6,500 premature deaths and also health costs and also other costs. If we use renewable energy, which has less carbon footprint, we can make emission reduction possible. Here we can see that if we use new and renewable energy sources, we can reduce emission up to 17%. And with that in mind, Indonesia committed to a 23% share of new and renewable energy, or NRE, in the National Energy Mix, or NEM, by 2025. This goal is stated on the Government Regulation on the National Energy Policy, Government Regulation on the National General Energy Plan, and Medium-Term National Development Plan 2020 and 2024. However, we can see that the yearly growth tend to miss the mark, and we need more measures to accelerate our efforts. Here, the question is Indonesia able to actually fulfill its goal? And the answer is yes. Here we can see that Indonesia have only used 2% of the total RE potential, with solar PV having the most potential, yet being utilized the least. Here we can also see that renewable energy have becoming more affordable over time compared to fossil fuels. Here we can also see the various impacts and benefit that the Indonesian people can enjoy if we use new and renewable energy. Here we can see saving up to 15.6 to 51.6 billion US dollars, and also 1.3 million jobs by 2030. Here we can also see that public perception toward NRE are actually very positive, with 36.5 people are willing even to use NRE even at a higher average price. This begs another question. Why, despite these very positive facts, Indonesia still fails to reach its new and renewable energy target? There are several reasons. The first one is the Indonesian energy trilemma, in which stakeholders in Indonesia prioritize low tariff and price, and also low governmental subsidies in electricity policy, while abandoning environmental sustainability. This is seen on the policy of Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Energy. And there are also conflict of interest happening in the PLN, which has the role as a regulator and executor, as well as DPR, which also have conflicting interests with the coal industry in Indonesia. Here we can also see that Indonesia have a lasting preference for coal due to abundant reserve, which resulted in 6 times higher subsidies compared to new and renewable energy. And Indonesia already have plenty of coal-fired power plants, which make the creation of more new and renewable energy power plants not interesting for investors. Here we can see that the prioritization of finance stability and preference for coal is reflected on the mechanism of the buying price, in which electricity purchase price over to REIPPs is based on the electricity generation cost called BPP, in which if the local BPP is above the national BPP, the maximum electricity purchase price is only 85%, which is not good for the REIPP because it cannot recoup its investment. Although it does keep the electricity prices low, it is disadvantageous for RE development. Why? Because the current BPP does not reflect the actual cost of electricity generation, which is actually more expensive compared to an RE. We can also see that there are several problems with the renewable energy governance in Indonesia, measured by GEGALO index. Here we can see the several problems. The first one is the lack of coordination between ministry. The second one is inconsistencies in Indonesia's policy on RE. And the third one is unimplementable RE policy in Indonesia. We remind a national energy transition roadmap is needed to ensure and bind further allocation of and use of all forms of energy. Here we can see that an integrative roadmap as a form of smart regulation can help the government reach the target that has been set. Smart regulation is a regulation pluralism that involves multiple parties in the formulation and implementation of a norm as a form of innovation, imaginative, and flexible social control, with the following elements. The first one is complementary instrument prioritization, virtues of parsimony, a system that is responsive to violation, empowering third parties, and maximizing beyond compliance. And here we can see several smart regulation implementation. In China, thanks to smart regulation implementation, China managed to generate 29% of national electricity from renewable energy, which is above the set target of 27%. And here in India, thanks to smart regulation implementation, it managed to generate 22.22% of national electricity by RE, with a very rapid yearly RE growth per year. Here is the breakdown of my idea. 23% at 2025 roadmap. Using the SMART framework analysis, the specific indicator is the idea is a policy advocacy to assist the government in reaching the 23% NRE in the NEM by 2025 goal. The success of this idea is measured by the formulation of the roadmap and policy advocacy through FGD, publication, and lobbying. This idea is in line with PPCAN, PPRWEN, and RPJMN 2020 and 2024, and also approved by Indonesia's support towards NRE. This idea is also realistic and implementable by college students based on preliminary research with ISAL. Hurdles for implementation, among others, are class schedules, which are mitigated by time management, and required networking for idea implementation, which are mitigated through cooperation with various NGOs. And finally, the time-bound element this idea can be done within 12 months, consisting of research and formulation of policy paper, formulation of the roadmap, and advocacy, publication, and lobbying. This idea is also relevant for the completion of 2 SDGs, which are affordable and clean energy, as well as climate action. And using the Sahabat framework, we can see that the hambatan for this idea is the energy trilemma, high dependency and support for coal, and RE policy that does not support an RE. However, we can see several assistance that exist on the current period, which are Indonesia's high NRE potential and supported by a cheaper cost, the implementation of the NRE bill in the 2021 Priority National Legislation Program, and existing initiative that can be integrated. Okay, and for the target itself, I would like to target the Ministry of National Development or Bappenas. Why? Because this institution have the role to coordinate and formulate cross-sectoral policies, which I believe can integrate various policy to ensure the attainment of the RPJMN 2020 and 2024. And the work plan for my idea is as follows. The first step is the research and formulation of policy paper, which will involve participatory research with ICEL, IESR, CPI, ELS, and SRE. And will also involve stakeholders' point of view such as MEMR, MOF, DPR RI, and PLN to ensure the delivery of implementable recommendation. The next step is the formulation of the roadmap being done for 2 months, which involve partners from previous steps. And the last one is advocacy, publication, and lobbying, that consists of delivery of the roadmap and policy paper, carrying on of an FGD, social media campaign publication, and also lobbying, which will be done within 6 months. And based on preliminary research that I have done, the 23% at 2025 roadmap will consist of these milestones. The first one is the promulgation of the new and renewable energy bill. Here we can see that the new and renewable energy bill have various expected impact. The first one is the portfolio regulation, a better purchase method, R&D support, and most importantly, an RE fund, which will fund an RE infrastructure development, incentive, compensation for companies that develop an RE, research and development, and human capacity building. This will ensure a kickstart to future an RE project for Indonesia. The next one is to increase the RE fund. Indonesia can do a redirection of coal subsidies, which are very plenty, and also coal tax, oil tax, and electricity surcharge. Here we can see the potential increase of up to 67.9 billion a year, and also 1.3 trillion yearly if we do a redirection of coal subsidies. And how do we use this redirection of coal subsidies? We can use it to optimize public financial instruments using the PD approach, which consists of providing sufficient revenue support, expanding the role of PTSME, directing finance to address early stage risk, and expanding the coverage of guarantee instruments. We can also use the funding to optimize these public financial instruments with high impact toward RE, such as fiscal incentive, guarantees, capital injections, final intermediation, viability gap funding, and feed-in tariff via PPA. And how do we actually increase the role of new and renewable energy in the national energy mix? The solution is by maximizing 2 sources of energy. The first one is the rooftop solar panel power through the Gerakan Nasional Sejuta Surya Atap, which is program initiated in 2017. We can prioritize the houses with more than 900 volt ampere electricity power, as well as government building in areas with the most electric subsidies and the areas with the highest BPP or biaya pokok produksi that I have explained before. This will reduce electricity consumption up to 100% for homeowners, and also will add additional income by selling unused electricity. And this will also give huge saving for the government through subsidies budget and also employment for a lot of workers. And not only solar panel power, we can also utilize micro hydro power plant. Here we can see the huge potential that Indonesia have. And micro hydro power plant have a much cheaper cost for the construction, maintenance, and distribution, and also use costs. The utilization of micro hydro power plant will increase electrification of rural areas and also empower local community by shifting profession to electrician and by ensuring that the people can be trained and to maintain and use the micro hydro power plant correctly. And these programs, these milestones implemented with the following timeline will give this several impact: energy sustainability, good energy governance, achieve sustainability and affordability, higher interest of our investment, and lastly, yielding and reach 23% NRE in the PAM by 2025 with a 5 to 4% annual growth yearly. 23% at 2025 roadmap, a policy advocacy for a better energy sustainability. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, you still have 2 minutes left. Do you want to add something?
Or
I think that's all. Thank you. It's fine, Bang.
okay, right. Thank you for the presentation, Faki. Maybe our directly start to the judges question and answer session. I'm going to set the timer.
Excuse me. Sorry, I'm sorry since I have to leave the meeting soon. May I ask the first question?
Right. Sure, Budina. Okay. I'll start the time now. 30 minutes from now. Please, Budina.
Okay.
If you
Thank
have a
you.
question.
Okay, Faki. Perhaps I have missed something from your talk. But I heard you said something about advocacy. So
Yes.
would you please could you please explain how would you run the advocacy for this renewable energy?
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Dina. So the policy advocacy itself will be done through 3 steps. The first one will be the formulation of the policy paper and also the roadmap, the 23% at 2025 roadmap. And the second one, and after the formulation and the writing of policy paper and the roadmap is done, we'll do policy advocacy through several steps. The first one is through by doing a focus group discussion with the Ministry of Economy, Energy and Mineral Resources, the Ministry of Finance, DPR RI, and also PLN. Why? Because as I have stated before, these 4 stakeholders are the main, one of the main decision maker regarding renewable energy. So I believe that because the recommendation will be given to them, we should involve them in the focus group discussion. The second one is through a social media campaign by collaborating with the NGOs and communities that I have participated with in the formulation of the work of the policy paper, which are IESR, ICEL, CPI, and so SRE, and also ELS. Why I choose this organization is because some of them I have prior cooperation before for the preliminary research, and also this organization have prior experience regarding renewable energy. And with the amount of publication that they have made before, I believe that this organization have the required network needed to push this idea to be actually be implemented. And the third step is the actual lobbying, in which I will try to ensure and try to follow up to the Bapenas to ensure that the idea is implemented or at least being looked upon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Faki.
Mbak Dina, is that enough, or do you want to push more from a few more questions?
I think it's enough because I have to give a talk in a webinar soon. So,
right.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Mbak Dina. Okay,
you,
maybe
Dina.
The second one, Pak Ari Afriansyah. Bang Ari, do you want to file a question to Faki?
Thank you, Angga, for the time. Faki, thank you for the presentation. Well researched, well prepared, and also a lot of information. Yeah, this shown that you have done your reading. Yeah. However, it's kind of a overwhelming, let's say, intention, plans, and so on. Yeah. But this time, how do you make it, let's say, when you're trying to explain to an ordinary community? Yeah. So these huge ideas of this renewable energy policy, especially advocacy. Yeah. What is your concrete, let's say, recommendation or action?
Okay, thank you, Pari, for the question. So regarding how do I explain this idea to ordinary people who might not have much understanding regarding NRE, I will try to explain the negative impacts of carbon emissions, which are the higher prevalence of lung cancer and other illnesses, and also premature death. And I will also give them facts about why NRE is beneficial for Indonesia from economic standpoint and also healthcare standpoint. And after that, I will give the explanation of short solution of what can be done. For example, the implementation of rooftop solar panel is actually implementable for people such as me or other people in this room. Because based on my research, we can already obtain a low interest loan from Bank BRI for the installment of rooftop solar panel. This kind of steps will be delivered to the general public. So instead of the general nitty-gritty policy that will involve the Ministry of Finance more or the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources more, I believe that the information that will be given to the general public will be focused more on why RE is important for the general layman or the general college student, and how this general college student and general people can involve in the increasement of renewable energy in the national energy mix. I hope that answered the question, Mr.
Yeah, one thing. So what is your concrete action then from your paper? What is the concrete recommendation?
All right. So for the recommendation from the policy paper itself, based on my preliminary research, I have made several milestones. The first one is the promulgation of the new and renewable energy bill. Why? Because based on comparison with a lot of other countries, the new and renewable energy bill is really needed for a country to determine a new and renewable energy fund, which will direct more funding for new and renewable energy. For example, for the creation of infrastructure, for the delivery of subsidies for new and renewable energy, for research and development, so on and so forth. So this is the important first step that Indonesia must done. And considering that Indonesia has put this bill on the Prolegnas Prioritas 2021, I believe that this can be done by the end of this year. And after that, the next step is to redirect the coal subsidies and also possibly increase, give a tax on coal, oil, and also electricity surcharge. This will increase up to more than 1.3 trillion Indonesian rupiah to the new and renewable energy funding, which will be greatly needed for new and renewable energy development. The third step is to optimize public financial instruments through the PD approach, which I have stated before, which will optimize several financial instruments that have been identified that have given the most impact to new and renewable energy investment. Because as we know now, PLN does not have the funding needed to fund a 100% renewable energy development on its own, which is why we still need investment, whether from domestic or foreign. And with that in mind, we need to improve the investment condition for Indonesia. And the fourth and the fifth recommendation is regarding the improvement of the energy mix itself. The first one is through the improvement of Gerakan Nasional 1 Juta Surya Atap by optimizing the houses with more than 900 volt ampere and also government buildings, and also the utilization of micro hydropower plant, especially in rural areas. So I believe these steps will help Indonesia reach the goal. Thank you.
Okay, Fakih, thank you so much. I guess I don't have other question, but I want to really encourage you to further furnish the paper because this is well researched, and I hope this of course with Ibu Wiwi guidance, it should be published in the journal, national journal, so that your paper will be heard. Either way, whether you're gonna win or not on this competition, but your paper needs to be published. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ari, do you have any more questions, like further questions to push?
No, thank you. That's fine for me.
Thank you, Ari. Okay, maybe Ibu Fallon would like to file a question to Fakih.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Angga. Okay, Mr. Fakih, I'm wondering about the simple concrete action that could be conducted by the community. Yeah? So regarding your idea, is there any simple concrete action that the community can take apart from campaign through the social media?
Okay. So as we identified before, one of the main problem here is the lack of the political will of the government. Even though there are several indicators that the government this year is actually trying to push the growth of new and renewable energy in Indonesia, a lot of people still afraid that the government will back down from its goal. So with that in mind, I believe if the social awareness of the people about the importance of new and renewable energy development in Indonesia is widespread and very widely supported, the constituents, the people in the DPR RI, will be more inclined to support further NRE development. Because as we identified before, regarding the energy trilemma, this NRE development might have an increase, might have to involve electricity surcharge to increase NRE fund. So if we want to increase the electricity surcharge for a lot of people, although for the people that are not subsidized as of now, we need to make sure that the people understand why this is important and why this is better for the long run. So I believe as the one of the least thing that we can, small things that we can do as a community is to try to be aware and try to spread out the news that NRE is the better way to go for a better Indonesian energy security, as have been done as well by BEM Fhui, BEM UI, and various other organizations in Universitas Indonesia. Thank you.
Is there any concrete action?
Okay, so maybe other than the increasing awareness through the social media campaign, what can we done as college students as well, especially from the Faculty of Engineering, is to actually participate in the training and development of micro hydropower plant. So based on my preliminary research, a lot of rural areas in Indonesia actually have the possibility to install micro hydropower plant. However, due to the lack of training by the government and the lack of understanding by the people in the rural area on how to operate and how to maintain this micro hydropower plant, a lot of installed micro hydropower plant actually went to waste. So what can college students do, especially from Faculty of Engineering, is to give training and engagement with the local community on how to operate and how to install and use this micro hydropower plant. By doing that, we can ensure that the micro hydropower plant can actually be useful and give benefits to the people in the surrounding areas. That is another example that can be done by the local community other than the increasing awareness through social media campaign and actually participating in the research. I hope that answers your question, madam.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fagi. Thank you, Mr. Angga.
Okay, Ibu Valen, do you have any more question that you want to wish to Paki?
No, I think. Okay, thank you, Mr. Angga.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to the next judges. Bang Ibrahim, do you have any question that you want to file to Paki? Please.
Okay, thank you, Bang. Thank you for the presentation. First of all, I would like to when the paper, you will invite stakeholders from government such as Bapenas, CSR, DPR RI, PLN, and GAU. Maybe my question is quite similar with me, Budina already asked before. How will you bring out the ideas introduce this paper to the government? I mean, will you walk into the National Development Planning Agency office and ask for the focus group discussion with the head of National Development Planning Agency, or will you push this agenda through yourself or through organizations such as BEM UI, or what? And how will you make sure the government do as what you have proposed to them? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ibrahim, for the question. So first of all, a disclaimer. The reason why I did not include BEM Fhui or BEM UI in the proposed partners for this program is because I have not done any prior engagement with them. However, because as I believe new and renewable energy development in Indonesia is one of their main agenda, as stated, as been seen in their publication, I believe that they can be engaged as well for this program. And how can I engage the government institution is through several steps. The first one, based on my research on Bapenas, Bapenas actually have a platform for collaborative development planning with the universities and also NGOs. So Bapenas actually will cater to this kind of program and proposal. We can send a proposal to Bapenas, especially to the Directorate of Maritime and Sumber Daya Alam, which is the directorate which handle this my topic. And we can further discuss with the Bapenas regarding the how can I deliver the framework, the policy plan to them. And after that, I will also cooperate with the NGOs that I have stated before which have done prior research in collaboration with these ministries, such as Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Ministry of Finance, so on and so forth. This will help me understand how can I gain the link needed and the networking required to ensure that I can gain the data and the required perspective. And after that, I will also try to get help from this institution to ensure that this governmental institution will send their representative and will actively participate in the FGD. And after that, after the policy paper is submitted to the Bapenas, I will try to do monthly follow-up to the Bapenas to ensure that the policy is being planned and actually being used by the Bapenas to further plan their PJMN 2020 and 2024. Thank you, Baim. I hope this answered the question.
Thank you, Fhui.
Bang Ibrahim, any further question to Faki?
There's no further question. Thank you.
Okay, for the judges, we still have like 14 minutes left. So if maybe Pak Ari, Ibu Felon, atau Bang Ibrahim want to ask question, we still have 14 minutes of session with Faki. Anyone wants to use Pak Ari, maybe?
No, I guess just a simple, tiny question. You said that the roadmap would be in 2025, right?
Yes, indeed.
Do you think it's feasible?
Okay. This is thank you for the question, Bang Ari. This is actually a very important question because yes, a lot of people have actually doubt the attainment of this goal, considering that Indonesia's yearly target tends to miss the mark. The actual growth is not according to the target. However, based on what I've seen on the RPJMN 2020 and 2024, Indonesia has actually released the first green RPJMN in which Indonesia prioritized low carbon development as one of its priority agenda. And furthermore, in the DPR RI also put this new and renewable energy bill on the Prolegnas Prioritas 2021. So I hope this actually shows that the government this time sees the growing need to actually develop new and renewable energy and try to reach the target. Because this is actually supported by the economic condition of the fossil fuels, in which Indonesia's export on coal actually reduced, amounting to 6% last year, and also carbon and other fossil fuel demands due to COVID and due to COVID slowdown of the economy is actually reducing as well. So I believe this can give a momentum for Indonesia to see that fossil fuel is not sustainable and is not economically feasible anymore. We need to try to transition to a more economically feasible renewable energy. I hope that answers your question, Bang.
Thank you very much for the answer. One more question. What is your plan after your graduation?
Okay. After I graduate, I plan to either work in a law firm or in the public sector, depending on where I land up. Inshallah, I don't know where there is the best place for me.
What is your passion? What is your passion? You want a public sector or private sector?
Currently, my passion is on the new and renewable energy sector and also technology and TNP.
No. Meaning public sector, yeah. Meaning that you become a civil servant. Yeah. Or you want to be private sector like practitioner, like law firm, and so on?
As of now, I'm more interested in the private sector because I have yet have any experience in the public sector. However, I might I'm currently trying to gain internship in the public sector in the hope to get a more holistic view on the workplace to find which place I'm more comfortable working on. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Angga.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ari, for the question. That's an interesting question, to be honest. Maybe anyone from the judges want to add up to the question? Because we still have 11 minutes left for a session with Faki. Maybe Ibu Felon and Bang Ibrahim?
No, thank you, Angga.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Felon. Maybe Bang Ibrahim, do you still have a question for Faki?
No, Bang. I don't have any question for Faki. Thank you.
Okay, the judges still have 10 minutes left. Can I say the judges waive this 10 minutes and we can go to the next finalist. Is it okay for me to end the session?
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Pari. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, Faki. It was a good presentation. Maybe after this, Faki can still watch in the Zoom meeting, right? So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you Abang dan Mbak and fellow judges. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, we're going to start to the next contestant, the next finalist, Delphina Christie. You can start preparation.
Yes, Bang. Is my screen visible, Bang?
Yes, your screen is visible. Wait a sec, I'm setting up a timer. Okay, I'm going to give you a cue on the last 5 and 1 minute. So I might get in the way of your presentation, but please bear with me so we can keep this presentation on time. Okay, the judges, can Delphina Christie start the presentation now?
Yes, please.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, I'll start the timer and you can start. Start from now.
Thank you, Bang Angga. Good morning, honorable judges and respected committee. My name is Delphina Christie Priscilla, and today I will be presenting about Warnet Pintar, which is a strategy for equitable access to the internet and educational support technology in disadvantaged regions. For the overview, I'll divide my presentation into 3 parts. First one, I'm going to talk about the problems. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the potentials. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about the solution, which is the concrete action to solve the problems, being Warnet Pintar. But before we go further into the problems, I would like to draw your attention to the 2 images. These 2 images are similar but different. It's similar in the manner that these 2 students are pursuing their educational rights. They're working, they're studying through their laptop. But it is different in the manner that the student on the left, enjoying her coffee, she doesn't have to worry about the internet connection. However, the student on the right side, she has to walk for miles into this very spot in the middle of nowhere to have this internet connection. Pursue the same education rights. This is a very similar trait. However, these very different circumstances have resulted into the disparity for these 2 students to pursue their educational rights. And this is the very problem that I want to tackle with this proposal of Warnet Pintar. Honorable judges, the fact is that the students in the disadvantaged regions are less likely to have internet access or adequate technology for distance learning in comparison to students in other regions. And therefore, the purpose of this whole idea of Warnet Pintar is towards the students in disadvantaged regions, referring to the 62 Indonesian districts stipulated under the regulation of the President of the Republic of Indonesia, number 63 of 2020. Only 10% of the households own computers, and only 5% of this disadvantaged regions households have internet connectivity. Therefore, the questions may arise in our head. If this problem is that essential and permanent, is government not doing anything? The answer is simple. Of course, government is doing something. And actually, these are the list of efforts and also the proposals that government has done before. The government has constructed classrooms and dormitories, initiate workshops, implementing e-learning model, which is handled by the Director of Planning and Identification of Disadvantaged Regions. The government has also collaborated with telecommunication operators to provide free internet quotas, providing BOS funds, which is an aid for the operational of the schools, and also construct fiber optic telecommunication networks. These are all the efforts that the government has put into this very problem. Then the question would be, what are the obstacles? If the government has put a lot of efforts, a lot of programs, then why is this disparity still exist Why the people, the students in the disadvantaged regions still can't access internet and pursue their educational right? There are two main obstacles that I found. The first one is because the construction of infrastructures would take a relatively long period of time. As I've mentioned before, because the idea of government was to put internet and technology facility when they have built schools or when they have built dormitories, then we have to wait until this whole infrastructures to be finished, which according to the data, it took 1 year, usually up to 1 year for these infrastructures to conclude. Therefore, when we are waiting in that period of time of 1 year, the students are waiting for that 1 year, they cannot access their educational rights because they have to wait until the infrastructures are finished. But the second obstacle is because there is a lack of awareness and the desire for students to use the internet and educational support technologies that the government has provided because of the negative stigma. The research have shown that there is a stigma inside of the society, such as, oh, internet facility is expensive. I don't want to go to that facility because I have to spend so much money. Or maybe there's also a stigma that, oh, internet cafe is only for men and not for women. These are the kind of obstacles that Warnet Pintar is trying to tackle. Therefore, a great proposal should utilize the potential of the disadvantaged regions itself. We found that there are two potentials that we can utilize. The first one is that in every disadvantaged regions, there are already pre-existing coffee stalls and food stalls, or traditionally and commonly known as warung kopi and warung makan, they could simultaneously become Warnet Pintar. And the second potential that we found is that some regions already have access to an internet connection, but they unfortunately have not been utilized because of the limited financial capacity. Then this is the solution to the obstacles with utilizing the pre-existing potentials. My proposal would be Warnet Pintar, which is to collaborate with the pre-existing traditional foods and coffee stalls in the disadvantaged regions to provide them with internet and educational support technology, and thus allowing students to continue their remote studies during the COVID-19 pandemic, and in the long run, provide them access to information for self-development. Therefore, this program benefits for the short term and also long term, because in the pandemic itself, we have no certainty until when we can actually conduct the physical learning. Therefore, this in the short term, we can cater to the educational rights laws that have been happening. But even if, let's say, that the COVID-19 has ended and we can meet in person, then this program would also be beneficial because in the long term, it can provide them access to technology and internet for self-development. This proposal will be conducted in 3 main steps. The first one will be the preparation and also potential identification. So what we will do is that we will identify areas without access to internet and educational support technology. We will work with the Ministry of Village and also Development of Disadvantaged Regions and Transmigration, which supports this program as well. And next, we will have a national recruitment of volunteers. And then we will choose 1 or 2 food or coffee stalls per 1 village, which are willing to collaborate with the program and fulfill the necessary parameters. The parameters that we have set is that the first one is that these stalls already have sufficient chairs and tables for at least 5 to 10 students, and they're also willing to operate the stall alongside with the school schedules. To be also to be remembered that this whole idea of the Warnet Pintar will be conducted as well with the health protocol itself. And lastly, we will collaborate with Kuiper and Halo Hola device to create an operating manual and troubleshooting guide for the internet and educational support technology. This is the second step, which is the operationalization and socialization. This will be conducted with 3 models of Warnet Pintar installation. Bearing in mind that a lot of disadvantaged regions have different characterization and different needs, Warnet Pintar caters to 3 different scenarios. The first scenario is if that area has already access to an internet connection, however, it is underutilized due to the financial limitations. Then what we will do is that we'll install Wi-Fi in the stalls with the ISP or the operator, internet operator, which is operating in the area. But the second scenario is if the area does not have access to an internet connection, then we will create an e-learning model with the director of PIDR working as well with the Kuiper and Halo Hola. I'll explain later in the next slide. But thirdly, if the scenario is that less than 50% of the population in the area have access to technology, then we'll install technology in the form of one computer with educational software installed. This will be the e-learning model, which has been made by the director of the IDR. So firstly, we'll work with Kuiper, which is to provide supplementary resources to education, such as video, ebooks, tryouts, and literacy training. And the Kuiper will transfer their data into Halo Hola device. So Halo Hola device is a technology that can have this data from Kuiper and be installed in the Warnet itself, in the Warnet Pintar itself, so that all of the gadgets can connect with this Halo Hola device without having to have the internet connection. So this Halo Hola device is very beneficial for areas which do not have internet connection or is not accessible because there is no operator of the internet. So the students can just connect to the Halo Hola device, that has been installed in each of the stalls, and they can access all of the contents in the Kuiper.
5 minutes left.
Thank you, Bang. Lastly is the monitoring and evaluation. So basically, we will give the contact information of the person in charge to the operator of the stalls to contact in case of if there's any problems. And we'll also make a weekly assessment and also supervision to evaluate whether this operation is already in accordance with its purpose and also the health protocol, for instance. This is the timeline, which is only for 3 months max, but approximately in the second month, the whole installations have been made. And therefore, this tackles all of the obstacles that I have mentioned previously that have been occurring because of the government proposals. Because within these 2 months, within 3 months, then the students do not have to wait for a school to be concluded, the construction of school to be concluded, because we're utilizing the pre-existing infrastructure, which is the stalls itself. And also about the negative stigma, because the person in charge of this Warnet Pintar is actually the person or the member of the society, then this creates a feeling of familiarity or a feeling of like, this is a family, therefore there should not be any negative stigma. And the socialization itself will be much easier because this is a part of the society that goes around and talks about the facility that is accessible for all, that is free for all. This will be the organizational structure of Warnet Pintar, which works with donors and also the supervisor. And this is the amount, source, and method of collecting funds. So the amount relies on the number of identified villages and also the model of internet installation, which I have elaborated before that it consists of 3 models. And also the source and method of collection of the funds will be through kitabisa.com, CSR, and also funds from Ministry of Village, Development of Disadvantaged Regions, and Transmigration of Republic of Indonesia. This is the estimated cost for each stalls that depends on what kind of models or what kind of needs that this area possesses. Lastly, this would be the stakeholders that we're working with. So the government, as I mentioned before, is the Ministry of the Villages, Development of Disadvantaged Regions, and also Transmigration. They will have this role to fund, supervise, aiding execution of operation. We also have donors from companies, individuals, or group from Kitabisa. We also have Halo Hola device, which is the offline device that we can utilize, and also Kuiper, which provides the supplementary resources for education. This is the projected impact, which is the short term, which we believe that the success would be 25% of the disadvantaged areas have obtained the facility, and that in the long term would be the increased HDI rate of 62.2%, and also the increase of the regions that have been provided with this facility. This would be the references to the PowerPoint. And to conclude my presentation, I would like to quote my role model, Bana Jua Sihab, that only education can save the future. Without education, Indonesia will not survive. Thank you very much for your attention. That will conclude my presentation.
Okay, Delphina, you still have 1 minute and 30 seconds. If you want to add like final statements or anything, you still have the time.
I think that will be all, Bang Angga.
Okay, I'll make it you waive your time. Okay, we're going to start for the judges session. I'm setting up my timer. Right. Okay, the judges, if you have question to Delphina, please feel free to ask. Yes, sure, Pak Ari. Silakan.
Hello, Delphina. How are you?
Hi, Pak. I'm doing
Finally,
great.
we meet here.
Yes, Bang.
Okay. I like your ideas. It's very concrete and timely. However, I also have some things that to clarify with you. First, I would like to ask you where you get the what do you call it, expression, the internet cafe for men only. Delphina?
Yes, Pak. I think my internet is breaking.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did you get the slogan that internet on for men only? The
Yes.
internet cafe.
Yes, Pak. Yes, I get that slogan from a journal that is conducting a research on disadvantaged areas, which have observed why those facilities that have been provided by the government, such as internet cafe, has not been utilized by the society. And turns out that there are some people who thought that, oh, maybe internet cafe is only for those who play games, and most likely it's only for men.
Sorry. Just got someone at my door. Thank you for the explanation. At least I can still not agreeing with that slogan. Yeah, I don't think that's quite a generic slogan. So you have to be careful of using that slogan. I get your comparison of the picture between the lady in the cafe and also the lady, I think on street. Yeah, I would suggest that you can make a better comparison. Yeah, if you can choose a specific area or areas. Yeah, because the problems that we are facing right now is not only students try to find the internet connection, yeah, but also the infrastructure, yeah. So why do you think that the disadvantaged areas is merely on the internet connection? Yeah, because in my opinion, yeah, the infrastructure is even more important, yeah, in order to get the development of this infrastructure conducted in all areas in Indonesia. Yeah. So my question is, first, why you're not making a case studies, for example, certain areas? Please answer.
Thank you, Pari, for your question. So firstly, why on the question of why don't we focus on a case study for like specific regions? Although I appreciate that there may be a more specific approach of this case study or maybe a specific result. However, that is something that should be noted is that every disadvantaged regions will have different needs as well. Therefore, if I conduct only, for instance, a case study in just one region, then it might not represent the other regions. So since the whole idea of the proposal is to benefit as much people as possible and to cater to as much as students in this disadvantaged regions, then I'm taking a more general approach, which can apply for all of the disadvantaged regions, which also leads to Pa Ari's next concern on why don't we just focus on the building of the infrastructures, because that's also important. On this remark, I would say that I totally agree with Pa Ari that infrastructures are very important in the disadvantaged areas. However, we are not in the ideal condition right now because through the COVID-19 pandemic, then we have to wait until the infrastructures to be concluded first for these students to be able to study. However, because we are in not ideal condition of COVID-19 pandemic, where there is no infrastructure to be concluded and there is no physical learnings that are allowed for the students to come to, then these are the very obstacles that we're trying to tackle through this program. Because of its time-effective manner and also a very simple approach of the operationalization of the program, this will tackle this not ideal condition in the very short term. However, in the long term, where we can go hand in hand with the government's program to build infrastructures, then the addition of Warnet Pintar in the stalls itself, it will not create any harm. It will even create more benefits instead, because then you can just go outside of your house, you find Warnet or Warkop, for instance, or Warteg, then you can just Google and also learn whenever you want without having to go to schools. But so therefore this program have these two benefits, the long-term and the short-term, Pari. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but the question is, how can you make sure that the connectivity within those warkop or warumaka, if there's no infrastructure?
Yes, Pak. Thank you for the question. I agree that in some disadvantaged regions, there has been no connectivity. There is no connectivity that is ongoing in the status quo. That's why in the 3 models of installations, it also caters to that situation. So in the previous model that I have shown before, the first one is when on the area that already has infrastructure of the connection of the internet, then we can just install Wi-Fi. However, in my second model is catering to Pa Ari's concern when there is no infrastructure of internet in the first place. So what we will do is that we're going to work with Kuiper and Halo Hola device, Pak, which is already a program that has been initiated with the ministry as well. But this, so how this works is that Kuiper will transfer the data to Halo Hola device. Then Halo Hola device will be installed in the stalls, but it does not require any internet infrastructure because it is an offline device. So if I have a gadget and then I can turn on the Wi-Fi, then it will be instantly connected to the router of the Halo Hola device. So it does not have to depend on the internet infrastructure that exists in the area.
So Halo Hola is just like a local cloud?
Yes, I think it sort of works that way.
So it's limited then?
Yes, Pak, it's limited. However, because it's going to work with Kuiper and also maybe another platform that we can work upon, then we can choose the most important parts of informations that we want to convey to the students, which in this case is the educational informations. And therefore, we don't have to suffer from educational rights loss anymore.
Yeah, but then the question would be, the need of having an internet connection nowadays is to get the education from the teacher or from the class. So for the second and the third scenarios, meaning that maybe the student will learn, what do you call it, asynchronous method instead of synchronous?
To answer that question, Pak, we agree about that needs. However, because Kuiper has already adjusted their programs and their contents as well to what the elementary student needs or maybe what the disadvantaged regions schools need, then I think that it is already tackling the concern of about that concern.
All right, last question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you mentioned really little on regional government. Is that correct?
Yes, Pak. But yeah, I think we can work on that because right now, the one that we're working with is the Ministry of the Development of the Disadvantaged Regions. But since the ministry itself have a decentralized work, which means that there will be several posts, for instance, in those disadvantaged regions, then we can work as well in that disadvantaged regions.
Okay, but in my opinion, still, the regional government still have the even more important roles on this one. Maybe you can consider to explore more on the role of the regional government.
Okay, Pak.
Thank you, Devina.
Thank you, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Angga.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Ari, for the question. Next, maybe Bang Ibrahim Imaduddin. Do you want to ask a question to Devina?
Okay, Bang. Thank you for the time. Good morning there.
Good morning, Mbak Im.
Okay, as you have stated before, there is a gap between regarding the internet connectivity between the people live in the cities and in the underdeveloped areas. My question is, what is the difference between the conventional internet cafe or conventional warnet and your idea of warnet pintar?
Thank you, Baim, for the question. So the differences between the conventional warnet that you can play games with that you can go and then maybe download games and talk with your friends versus the idea that I'm proposing. Is that the question, Baim?
Yes.
Thank you. So the first difference is that the place itself, because in the conventional warnet, then the purpose of the place is only to provide the computers along with the internet. And there is also a fee that you have to pay because you have to pay to the operator. However, my idea of Warnet Pintar is actually utilizing the pre-existing stalls, such as warung kopi or warung makan that exist in the disadvantaged regions, where we can install them with this technology, where we can install them with the internet connection that they need. And therefore, that's the first difference. But the second one would be that conventional warnet might not be accessible for the disadvantaged regions because warnet is very expensive because you have to have like 5 computers or maybe 10 computers. Then maybe it's not too much of a profit that you can gain if you build a warnet in the disadvantaged regions. So it's not actually accessible to the people in the disadvantaged regions. Meanwhile, in the program that I'm proposing, which is Warnet Pintar, then it is very easy, it's very simple. You just have to put all of the internet and technology facility in the pre-existing warung kopi or warung makan that are already accessible in the first place for the students and also for the people in that area. So that would be the differences, Baim. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Dea. So I summarize your answer. First difference is it is free and then it only provides the internet and the building or the place is already constructed from the local food stall and warkop lah ya. And the second question is if you're using Kuiper, especially in the underdeveloped areas that do not have an access to the internet, I've seen in your presentation that the Kuiper will transfer the data to Holahalo ya. And the question is, what if the Kuiper need to be updated and meanwhile Holahalo is not on Wi-Fi or is just a device, a local cloud, like Bang Ari has said before. What will you do to handle the situation to keep the Kuiper update and keep the community who will receive the benefit updated with the new material, or will you just let it be? Thank you, Dea.
Thank you, Baim, for the question. So to answer that, in the very first phase of the program, which is the identification and also the preparation, we will ensure that the Kuiper will make contents that is adjusted to 3 months of learning time. Because then every 3 months, then the Kuiper will have to adjust it and renew it to the existing progress of the students, or maybe to the existing circumstances or contents that needs to be added, for instance. So in every 3 months, there will always be update. So what we will do is just the same like the first phase. So we will bring it to the areas where to the Kuiper itself where there is an internet connection, and we can transfer it to Halola device, and then we will bring it back to the 70 region. So this will always happen in 3 months. So there is no need to be afraid that there will be no updates at all on the educational contents.
Okay, so every 3 months there will be a renew data.
Yes.
The question is, what happened in between, in the time when you bring the Hola Halo to the area that have internet access? What will happen in the area that receive the Kuiper program?
To clarify, we don't bring the Halo device outside, but we bring the data from the outside to the inside. So there is no sort of like disconnection in the meantime.
Okay, thank you, Dea.
Thank you, Baim.
Okay, Bang Baim, is that it, or do you want to still push a few questions today?
It is enough, Bang Angga. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bang Baim. So Bu Felen have internet connection troubles, but he gave me some question today. So I will read it today. So basically Bu Felen said that he likes your ideas, but she's asking that what is the alternative solutions that you can give if there is no local enterprises that want to fund or want to use Halo devices in the CSR. So could you answer that?
Thank you, Bang Angga and Bu Falen, for the question. So that is one of the obstacles that I have thought about when making this program, which is the lack of fund from the CSR, for instance. What we can do about it is that exactly, we're not relying on only just one source of fund. That's why in the models of the source of funds, I don't only put just one, which is the CSR program, but there is also donors from kitabisa.com and also the fund from the Ministry of the Villages, development of disadvantaged regions, and the transmigration. Therefore, there are always two other alternatives if the company or the private entity does not want to provide us funds. And there is already enough incentive actually in the kitabisa.com, because Kitabisa is very famous for their crowdfunding mechanism, in which you can just post kitabisa.com as advertisement in the Instagram, and everyone will just donate a lot of money to you, especially if it is a crucial issue, if it is a very timely issue that needs to be addressed, just as the COVID-19 learning method, for instance. But also the Ministry of the Villages is also having this program, which I meant is that this is within their vision and mission. This is within their purpose. Therefore, they will provide us with funds. So that is the second. That is the first prevention that we can do to avoid that from happening. But secondly, even if this the enterprise does not want to fund with us, doesn't want to provide us fund, then we can negotiate with them. We can always negotiate with the private entities on, if they don't want to give us money, then maybe you can provide us with your products. For instance, if you are an educational technology company, then maybe we can work with how you provide us with your educational content, then we can promote your products as well. Or maybe if they are a technology like the computer technology company, then they can also provide us with help. So it does not have to come with money, cash per se, but it can also come in form of other sort of donation. And I think that would make the negotiation become easier, and therefore for the companies to be able to help us. So that would be the answer, Bang Angga.
Maybe I want to push a bit more. So what kind of arguments that you would give to these enterprises to give donation? What is the advantage that they can also have from donating it to the Halo devices?
Thank you, Banga. Firstly, I would argue that on a principle level, that you have an obligation of this social responsibility on how if your objective as a company is to provide betterment for society, especially in education sector, then we can argue that this is in line with your purpose of the company, for instance. But secondly, if they don't buy the principle argument, then we might have to go with the practical argument by saying that maybe if you provide us with the donations, then you can have your images to be morely known by the society, because of course, as this is a program that is supervised and also supported by the government and a lot of other stakeholders, then of course we will put the people who provide us with support and donations, and therefore the company will be more known by the people, not just not in the disadvantaged regions, but as the public who are concerned about the educational issues. So this is a great way for them to introduce more and more of their products for a good deed. That would be the answer, Banga.
Okay, I'm going up to the second question from Mbak Fallon. So how is your solution, your concrete solution, if Indonesia is quite vast, quite big, and there's places where the houses comes in a faraway places one another? That will become a technical problem for halo-halo devices. So what is your concrete solution if in a certain geographic area the houses is quite far away from each other? Thank you.
Thank you, Bang Angga. So firstly, the Warnet Pintar itself is modeled with this concern in mind, because we noticed that maybe in one village, there will be a different distance of housing. And therefore, this kind of facility, the stalls that we choose in the end of the day should be the one that is strategic. The one that should be strategic in the manner that it is accessible for the housings, for the people in a very far housings to access to begin with. Because this is a per village stalls that we are installing, then we will ensure that this warung that we collaborate with would be accessible for the students, even if they have a different distance of housing. So that would be the solution, Bang Angga.
Okay, I'm continuing to the next question. So how's when there's a connection problems in the halo-halo devices? That's the next question from Mbak Fallon.
Thank you, Bang Angga and Mbak Fallon. So if that is the case, that would be tackled with the third phase of the program, which is the supervision and also the monitor, which we have provided the owner of the warung with the contact person number, with the person in charge. So if there is an internet connection, if there issue of or the technical issues of this halo-halo device, you can just call the person in charge and we'll give the technicians to go there and just immediately fix it. So that would be the solution.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Delphina. So judges, we still have 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Is there any judges that want to push some more question to Delphina?
Bang, can I ask a following up question?
Yes, Bang Baim, please do so.
Thank you, Bang. Can I ask you a question? It's a follow-up question from Bu Valen. From what Bu Valen asked before, what if there is no strategic warung? Will you pick a randomly warung and who are willing to cooperate, or will you find another one, or what will you do?
Thank you, Baim. So in the very rare case where there is no warung that is accessible for all areas, so if that is the case, then because this is a very rare circumstance, we may have to put the Warnet Pintar, not just one, but maybe 2 until 3 Warnet Pintar in the different stalls. So maybe if the areas are very far and it can be separated into 3 parts, but these 3 areas are very, the distance are very far, for instance, then if this is the case, then we can install in that area one Warnet Pintar facility, and also for the other areas as well. So it does not have to be per village, but per areas with the distancing that is accessible for each of the housings. So I hope that answers your concern, Baim.
Okay, another following up question. In my dusun in Rasuan, it consists like 8 village. It only have like 3 or 4 warkop, and it is separated by a river. How will you connect? Maybe if I live in dusun satu, that is located in like 5 kilometers from the first warkop. What will you do to provide the people who live in dusun satu? Will you just tell them to go to the warkop satu that is located the nearest from them like 5 kilometers and separate by the river, or will you just install another stall to provide them? Thank you, Devina.
Thank you, Baim. I'm not sure if this river that you're referring to is the kind of river that you can just cross the river within just like 5 minutes and there is no obstacles. Indeed, like you can just cross them without any obstacles. Then if that is the case, then I would recommend for the people in Dusun Satu, for instance, to go with another Dusun if the river is not such an obstacle. But if the river is indeed an obstacle, such as that you have to for instance, take a boat, or maybe there is a risk or a danger, or maybe it took a very long time for you to go to another dusun, for instance, then we will close that obstacles and just install another warnet. So the purpose of this warnet to begin with is for the education to be accessible to begin with. So we will delete all of these obstacles that are not that are reasonable to be closed with this program. So that would be the question, Baim. So it truly depends on the survey, on the identified disadvantaged regions.
Oh, okay, thank you, Devina. Last question. If you decide to install a new stall in a really specific area, is 3 months enough to do the program?
Thank you, Baim. We believe that it will be enough because within the first month, what we will do is that we immediately conduct a real-time survey where we can talk with the people, with the society, and even, or for instance, the head of the dusun. So even if there is no warung kopi, for instance, then maybe there is a potential warung kopi. So for instance, if there is a person or if there is a family that has been building just warung, for instance, then we can work with them, we can collaborate with them. So it does not have to go from zero anymore, and we can just provide them with the things that they need, for instance, like shares or because we also give them incentives. We also provide them compensation to actually operate this Warnet Pintar. So we think that within 3 months, that will be enough, Baim.
Okay, thank you, Dea.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have like 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Maybe judges that want to ask a final question in the last 3 minutes. Maybe.
I'm okay, Angga.
Okay. Then, Bang Baim, you don't have any question?
I had enough, Bang Angga.
Okay, so let's just say the judges has waived the last 3 minutes. So thank you, Delfina. It was a nice presentation. Okay. Then, okay. Thank you, Delfina. We can start again to the next one. I received a news that the next contestant having a switch because due to schedule conflict. So the next will be Jonathan. Is it okay?
Oh, I see.
Oh, Saskia, you can.
With Saskia, or you want to go first?
Oh wait, who is having the time conflict? Is it Jonathan?
You.
No,
You,
I don't have time for.
No.
If you're already ready with your presentation, I think.
Yes, if that's okay.
Okay, so Saskia will be going, right? Okay, let me start my, wait, let me edit my timer.
Permission to share screen.
Right. Okay, judges, Pak Ari and Bang Baim, can we start the presentation?
Yes, please.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, Saskia, are you ready?
Yes.
Right, okay, I'll start the timer and you can begin now.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable judges, committee, and FHOE. My name is Saskia Galant, and I will be presenting about mandatory corporate social responsibility to support for virtual education. Now, for the overview of my presentation, firstly, I would be discussing the scope of discussion, which concerns virtual education and the concept and regulations of CSR. Secondly, I would discuss the problem identification, which will be divided into two, herein access to virtual education and mandatory CSR for mobile companies. And lastly, I will be covering the solution as well as the conclusion. So on the first scope of discussion, the United Nations have set out 17 Sustainable Development Goals in order to achieve global goals and prosperity. Here, I would like to highlight two goals, which are quality education and partnership for the goals. And SDG number 4 stated that to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And this SDG is one that is very pinpointed to the issue that I will be discussing today, which is the access to virtual education for the students in DKI Jakarta. And secondly, for the partnership for the goals, to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development, I will be using CSR as a concept in partnership with the government in order to strengthen such goals. Now, on to the first concept of virtual education. As we all know, we have been experiencing virtual education, or better known as PJJ, which combines electronic and internet-based technology. However, we know that there are several benefits and, of course, some disadvantages to these methods of learning. For us, for the privileged ones, here we can experience the pros of virtual education, which includes how this encourages students and teachers for creativity and innovation, as well as increases our competence in technology. However, for those who are underprivileged may not feel the same way. Hence, there's a limited access of connectivity to access virtual education in a form of devices, infrastructure, or connectivity, and also that not all students get the quality of education that is equitable and inclusive. The next concept I'll be discussing is regarding corporate social responsibility. Now, corporate social responsibility is an organizational activity to contribute to sustainable development. However, right now in Indonesia, the implementation of CSR is only mandatory for companies that operated in natural resources and not for companies that operate outside of natural resources. And the implementation mechanism has not been specifically regulated. Hence, if we see the pyramid of CSR by Carroll, there is the legal responsibility here is still lacking, whereas companies that operate in non-natural resources have only pinpointed their CSR in a voluntary manner. On to the next point, I will be identifying the problems in this case. Firstly, how access to virtual education in DKI Jakarta is not equitable and inclusive for the students. And secondly, how mandatory CSR for mobile companies should be applied. At this point in time, there's 171 and 998 students in DKI Jakarta that do not have smartphones to access virtual education due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For us, we are privileged enough to have such devices, such means in order for us to access our university tasks and even webinars and so on and so forth. But this is not the case with the 11% of students in DKI Jakarta. And these students' population is derived from elementary students, junior high students, high school students, as well as vocational high school students. With that being said, of course, the government of DKI Jakarta have an attempt in overcoming such situation in which they launch KSBB Pendidikan or Kolaborasi Sosial Berskala Besar Pendidikan. Here, under such program, they provided Wi-Fi data packages and even the distribution of 1,208 smartphones alongside with Kartu Internet Belajar Jakarta, which provides data within the cell phone itself. However, the problem is that this KSBB Pendidikan lies on the voluntary donation from prospective collaborators of donors, like any Jakarta citizens or aggregators such as Basnas or other organizations that will collect these funds in order to buy such mobile phones. And seeing this program has not been effective, considering that from the data that I just showed before, it only solved 0.08% from the total population of students that does not have devices in order to access virtual education. Now, with that being said, there's a special importance for a company, especially mobile phone companies, to provide such donations in a form of CSR, considering that they have such resources, and especially that there's also other negative effects that they may have brought. On to the second issue. Now, why would mobile companies would want to conduct a mandatory CSR? As I have mentioned previously, CSR is voluntary for non-natural resources company. And the problem that lies is that since it is voluntary, a lot of CSR that is being conducted is not based on the community needs, meaning it's only for the philanthropy or for the importance of the company. And there's also no assessment towards the effectiveness of the CSR from the beneficiaries or the community that receive such donations or the activities of the CSR. And lastly, it is very often that such CSR is misdirected or unsustainable implementation. And this can be seen in the following. Here, one notable company, FIFO, have conducted a CSR in Borobudur. However, the CSR that they conducted is they conducted a cleanup of the area of the Chandi. However, this is not the problem that they should be solving. Why? They have other negative effects that they have contributed to the environment or even the society, which they need to solve by their CSR instead of the following programs. And this is why I stated before, it is misdirected and not implemented sustainably. Here in this case, mobile companies have the tendency to not optimize domestic component level or local requirement values, or better known as tingkat komponen dalam negeri atau TKDN. Hence, due to not optimizing such DCL value, this reduces the productivity of domestic industries. And as a result of this, there's a lot of unemployment, there's a lot of impact towards the productivity of domestic industries in terms of the provision of goods and services, and so on and so forth. And of course, in the bigger picture, this would negatively impact towards the Indonesian economy. Now, there is a special urgency for the harmonization of sanctions, of administrative sanctions for DCL value. This is because, since I stated before, there is no sanctions that has yet to be applied for those who violate, or for those who have not optimized DCL value. Right now, there is only provisions regarding violations of DCL value. And even in that case, as we can see here, it has not been harmonized yet, where from one regulations to another, they still have different regulations in which these regulations have not been revoked. Here and under Peraturan Menteri Perindustrian number 16 of 2011, we can see that the sanctions given would be in a form of financial sanctions. On the other hand, on Peraturan Menteri Perindustrian number 29 of 2017, especially concerning the methodology of DCL value in cell phones, it provides that the sanction would come in a form of first financial sanctions as an obligation to increase paid-in capital, as well as measures such as a certificate suspension and certificate revocation. Now, in this case, mobile companies in Indonesia have to meet the minimum requirement of 30% DCL value. And of course, following to a government regulation number 29 of 2018, the optimal number of DCL value is around 40%, meaning there is still much room for these companies to optimize the DCL value within a cell phone. However, this is not the case. Only one company that has implemented or optimized this DCL value, and this is Samsung. If you can see in the data, other companies such as Vivo, Xiaomi, Realme, and other companies, especially Apple, they have a very low DCL value. Hence, what they contribute is a negative impact towards the domestic industry. Now, there's two solutions I would be proposing. First, towards the first issue, and second, to the second issue. Would be, and the first one would be in a COFEDU program, which is a corporate social responsibility for virtual education. And secondly, is a regulation of the Minister of Industry on the procedures of administrative sanctions of DCL value, or I will be calling it as Permenperin, which will be harmonizing the sanctions, the administrative sanctions. On to the first solution. COFEDU program is intended to cater the needs of students in DKI Jakarta that has yet have access to virtual education. And this program serves as a pilot project that will be directed to 10,000 underprivileged students in DKI Jakarta. And the mission of this program itself is to provide access of virtual education for those who are affected due to the COVID-19 pandemic, considering that there are many economic factors and social factors that have hindered them to attaining smartphones to access virtual education. And of course, the vision is to achieve SDG number 4. And the mechanism in doing so is that this program will be conducted in conjunction with a company and an NGO, where the applicants would then submit a form to the NGO providing an incapable certificate or surat keterangan kurang mampu, in which this NGO would cater the data for the company and to consider how many cell phones they would need and who are the target for these donations. So it would not just be given to someone who does not deserve it. And after that, the distribution of these devices itself will actually be conducted by the NGO. And this NGO that will be in collaboration is Benih Baik Foundation. Why this NGO is because they have the experience in conducting such CSR and they have the data, as well as the facility and doing so to reach to these students. And not only as a one-end solution, the beneficiaries or the community will also do an assessment towards the company regarding the CSR activity, in which this would solve the issue of the CSR, whether it has been right on target or whether if it has been directed correctly or not. Now, this is the Sahabat framework. And the target, it has fulfilled all of the SMART framework, which is specific, measurable, acceptable, and realistic and time-bound. Now, as we can see here,
1
it is
minute
specific.
left.
Thank you, Bang. As we can see here, it has fulfilled all of the Sahabat framework. Now, if I may continue to my second solution, I would be proposing a policy recommendation in terms of the harmonization of administrative sanction, which one of them will be in a form of CSR activities as a form of administrative coercion. So why administrative coercion can be a form of the CSR? This is because forced action to enforce laws and regulation by not taking action against offenders, meaning that coercion here means is directed to those parties that is ignoring the law rather than those who are violating the law. So this would be the framework. And this Permenperin has also fulfilled all of the Sahabat framework considering the target where it is already have a smart characteristic. And the challenges here is that there's an obligation for mandatory CSR. There's no obligation for mandatory CSR for non-natural resources company. And this program would give such obligation for the company.
Saskia, your time has elapsed.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, we're going to continue to the judges question and answer session. Pak Ari?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Angga, for the opportunity. I just have two questions for Saskia. Yeah. First, why do you prefer to pursue so-called sanctions towards these companies? Because we know that the companies also likes to be given a reward, yeah, for their action as well. Yeah. Secondly, why Jakarta? That's all.
Thank you, Pari. Perhaps if I may, I would like to answer why Jakarta first. And this is because, as we know, Jakarta is a very big city, and there's still a lot of population that has not been reached for the access to virtual education. So how about other cities? As I mentioned before, this program would be a pilot project. And of course, in the long term, we would expect for this program to grow. But this highlights the importance why virtual education needs to be inclusive and equitable for all students. And especially considering that the COVID-19 pandemic are amongst the worst in Jakarta. And therefore, it would implement virtual education in a much bigger scale. And on to the second question, why is it in a form of sanctions rather than rewards? As I mentioned in the presentation, Pari, there are a lot of considerations why companies would conduct CSR. And one of these considerations is that for philanthropy or for economic value. And of course, they would like to be rewarded for such conduct. But in many cases, these are not right on target, meaning that from what they intend to do and the outcome of such CSR does not actually match the goal. So taking the example of FIFO previously, they only used Candi Borobudur as the event for a launching of a mobile phone. But in a much bigger scale, the production of a cell phone have contributed negatively to the domestic industry. And this is why it is important for CSR to make it as an obligation in a form of sanctions rather than as a reward. But of course, in terms of companies that have conducted CSR correctly, ethically, of course, then they would be have done it voluntarily.
Okay, thank you, Saskia. I think I'm enough, and I need to apologize because I have a class after this. So good luck for the rest of the team. Yeah, we'll see you after the break. Thank you so much, Angga.
Thank you, Pak Ari. Okay, we're continuing to the next judges. Bang Baim, maybe you want to ask question to Saskia.
Okay, thank you, Bang Angga. Good morning, Saskia. I only have one question for you. From what you have explained, CSR in form of mobile phone is intended to provide access to education for the community, especially students who do not have a cell phone to access education. And if you look at in the future after COVID-19, when the learning process is normal, do you think this program can bring a positive impact in accordance with the four objectives of SDGs, which is to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all? That's all. Thank you, Saskia.
Thank you, Baim. Yes, indeed, Baim. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to explain that before. It actually is actually a support in case of whether COVID-19 would subside soon. Of course, virtual education would be inherent as part of our education system. And this has been proven right now how it has been very efficient in conducting education and how it has reached many students in a way that it was not reached before. And according to Direktorat Sekolah Dasar, after COVID-19 pandemic, of course, virtual education would still continue in cases for students who would move from one school to another, meaning that they don't have the trouble of going to transfer from one school, but they would still be enrolled to one school and having the same equal education and will be conducting the same curriculum. And this would hinders how there would be a disparity between education itself. And on another note, after maybe perhaps in the academic year of July 2021 and 2022, there has been a rumor that the education system would be conducted in a hybrid manner, meaning that half would be conducted in a virtual education and half would be conducted in face-to-face. However, considering this fact, there's still that 50% chance where those students would attend a face-to-face, meaning that the rest of the class would still have to access virtual education interchangeably. So this, as I said before, would be inherent as a part of our education system. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Saskia. Bang Angga, mungkin one more question. Do you think that mobile phone has now become an important thing to own by the elementary, junior high, and high school student in the era of pandemic, or maybe in the later time? And why you choose Mobile 7 CSR instead of Mahasiswa? Thank you, Saskia. That's all.
Thank you, Baim. So maybe I would answer the latter first. The reason why I choose mobile phone companies or mobile phone devices as a form of donation rather than Mahasiswa or scholarship for these students is because the problem lies on the access towards virtual education. There are students that are still attending schools. They have been enrolled in a certain school. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it stripped out their access in accessing these education itself. So whether if the form of scholarship would be in a form of given the registration fee or given the fee for the school itself, they don't. The problem here is not for attending the school, but the access and attaining to the school itself, if that makes sense. So this is why I have seen the problem and opted to choose for mobile phone donations, as considering that the issue here does not lies on whether these students are able to attend or not, but whether they have access or not to join their education. And on to your first question, perhaps do you mind repeating your questions, Baim? I'm very sorry.
No, it is actually pretty much the same with the second question, but it is only a yes/no question. See, actually, like, do you think the cell phone is important for elementary, junior high, and senior high school students?
Right. Yes, I do think it's important because this program is actually targeted to underprivileged students. And of course, in a perfect world, a laptop would be more beneficial for them to have to access virtual education. But considering the limited resources, then a mobile phone would do. And this device is actually one of the most prominent that is being used by underprivileged students in DKI Jakarta. So perhaps that would be my answer, Baim.
Thank you, Saskia. That's all, Bang Angga. Thank you.
Okay, I got some question from Mbak Fallon. The first question, sorry, is there anyone want to add? No, all right. I got a question from Mbak Fallon. First, what is your solution if there's no Indonesian enterprises that want to use your idea of CSR? What is your argument on that?
Okay. So, of course, the question lies whether no companies would want to conduct the CSR. And this is why I conducted the CSR as a form of sanction to fulfill the obligation of deviation from the non-optimization of the DCL value. Therefore, the obligation of the CSR itself is a sanction in which would bind these companies to conduct. And when it is voluntarily conduct, I have done some preliminary research where it shows that mobile companies actually have the tendency or is actually wanting to contribute in this aspect. And this comes from one of the director strategists of a mobile phone company in Indonesia.
Okay, then Mbak Felon also asked a question. Then, what is your what is the difference between your ideas and the previous contestant, Deavina? Can you differentiate your ideas?
Yes, of course. So my idea itself is in the provision of the facility itself, which is in the form of the cell phone itself. And Deavina's proposal is with regards to the connectivity. And what is the need for connectivity if you don't have the device? There may be connectivity, like where many our government instances provide free data, or even cellular network companies provided packet data for mahasiswa, for students all across Indonesia. But here, that is exactly the problem. There is such connectivity, but there is no devices in order to access such connectivity and accessing virtual education. I hope that answers the question.
I'm maybe a bit pushing about the first question again.
Okay.
So you said that they're eager to do this this kind of program, right?
Yes.
So could you find a reason why they want to do this? Like, what is the advantage, the incentive for them, which also align with the social responsibilities of them?
Sure. So the incentive itself from these companies in conducting the CSR would come in many forms. Firstly, this would of course increase their reputation in public. And when upon giving these mobile devices to these students, it would create the impression that these companies have helped them in difficult times, especially in a pandemic, which would of course grow a sense of loyalty for them in the future. So this is one form or strategy for companies to procure for customers in the future. How this would have a sense of loyalty from these students, and of course the surrounding community, seeing that these companies have provided for their community, have provided for their children in these times. And moreover, the benefits for these companies, of course, more investors have seen to be more attracted when a company have conducted CSR that is right on target, or it is directed, meaning that the company does not only work for their own business model, but also taking into account the societal responsibility that they have to contribute. Perhaps that is my answer, Bang.
So you're only arguing this is to gain consumers' loyalty or maybe brand recognition, is it?
Well, it is not only about brand loyalty and recognition. Perhaps that could be one factor. But of course, this is exactly why I put this program in conjunction with the Permenperin. So the system here is not, it does not only give an incentive for these companies to conduct the CSR, but also as an obligation, considering that they have negatively impact the domestic industry, where this could be seen and taken away of the labor of employment or the productivity and goods and services, considering that they have imported more components in a cell phone from abroad, rather than using the components that are available here. So this is one form of them contributing back to the society that they have deprived of that right, Bang.
Okay, this is actually, you've been discussing the TKDN previously. This is the issue of TKDN. Do you have any opinion in relation to TKDN in the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja? There's a new provision in that.
Yes. In the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, I noticed that the government intended to increase the TKDN or the DCL value up to 50% by 2024. Of course, this would be an ideal case for Indonesia economy. However, we have to also take into account as Indonesia as a member state of the WTO. So actually, local requirements of the DCL value is prohibited in the WTO. However, it does give an exception for developing countries like Indonesia to have a local requirement value. And of course, my opinion of this is that this would risk Indonesia's relations with the member states, especially perhaps the United States, the European Union, and Japan, in which in the minutes of the WTO have stated how much they're actually against Indonesia's practice of local requirement value. Perhaps that's my opinion, Bang.
Okay. Do you aware about I think it's a provision in the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja that marketing is part of alih technology transfer? Are you familiar with the topics?
I'm not wholly familiar, but perhaps I might try to address, Bang.
Okay. Do you want to try to answer? Or?
Yes. However, do you mind clarifying the question?
Yeah, the question is, if I'm not mistaken, in the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, the basically TKDN is one part of technology transfers, in my opinion. But
I see, right.
There's a new thing in Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja that's saying marketing is part of technology transfers. What is your opinion on that?
I see. Thank you, Bang. So, in my opinion, just to clarify, Bang, does that mean that marketing would be calculated under the DCL value or the TKDN value?
That's my question. What is your opinion on that?
I see. Okay. Actually, that is considering the nature, perhaps for Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja is oriented to benefit investors. In this case, it actually contradictory to the purpose of increasing TKDN value or DCL value up to 50% when marketing can be calculated as a DCL value itself. This would give leeways for companies to actually manipulate perhaps how they could increase their DCL value within the provision of a cell phone, for example. And actually, at this point in time, they have also calculated software as a part of a DCL value. And this is as simple as installing an Indonesian app within a cell phone, rather than using actual components from the Indonesian industry. So in the case of taking marketing to be accounted for as a part of the DCL value, of course, that would be counterproductive to the aim of actually increasing the domestic industry.
Okay, then okay, I got your point, your stances. I'm continuing to the third question from Balan. Okay. So, what is the problem? So, how's if we got a connection problems in the devices? So, what is the countermeasures if there's problem in connection and devices in the CSR program?
I see. So actually, if in case there is a connectivity problems, the program actually is targeted towards the use of the cell phone itself. And we actually rely on connectivity that is provided by the government or other cellular network, meaning that those provision of free data or free data from either the government or cellular network companies and providing such. And what we want to achieve here is rather how this can be complemented with the use of these devices. And of course, in the case of a connectivity issue, it's very not ideal for all of us. And to this date, of course, it is very relevant to all of us. And perhaps in those cases, then the solutions of connectivity could be further explored. Although at this juncture, the program is actually directed towards the provision of those devices for the underprivileged students.
Okay, if we evaluate your ideas, what is actually your original ideas? Because this is what Fallon said. This is basically an ideas that already being discussed by many people. So how you differentiate your ideas, the originality of your ideas from the one that's already been discussed in the public?
Yes. So perhaps how to distinguish this program itself is the fact that it provides the mandatory CSR in conducting these programs. Of course, in a lot of cases, and even the government have conducted KSBB Pendidikan, which is essentially similar in, with program COFEDU. But what is not the same is that KSBB Pendidikan has only able to reach a very minimal amount of students in DKI Jakarta. And what we hope to achieve here is that this program could complement such program. And actually, in order to achieve SDG number 4, it does not only lies from one stakeholders, but of course other stakeholders such as companies, individuals and governments could collaborate together in achieving and providing inclusive and equitable education, which is can be done in a form of CSR that is more directed, that is right on target, and is not implemented unsustainably.
All right. That's enough the question from Mbak Fallon. Judges, we still have 9 minutes of answer and question session. Maybe Bang Baim, you want to ask some question to Saskia? Hello? Maybe judges, Bang Baim?
Not for me, Bang.
Okay, because we don't have any other judges. Mbak Iput, can we say the judges has waived the 10 minutes of rights they have?
Yes, if it's already done, then we can finish the presentation for Saskia.
Okay, then okay, Saskia, you heard the decision. Thank you for the presentation. It was a good presentation. After this, we're going to have Jonathan, but as you can see, maybe the situation is not really optimal for conducting a presentation. Maybe if you don't mind, can we start the presentation in the next session after the break?
Yes, I don't mind. If I may ask, when the next session will?
Mbak Iput, when is the next session?
Based on the schedule, it's supposed to be at 1 p.m. But I think we have to discuss first with the judges. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll inform after this.
Okay. Then for now, the session, the first session of today will be adjunct. We'll see you later in 1 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.